Hello and welcome. My name is Jenna Grumman. I am with First Book, and I am so excited to have all of you here to join us for our First Book and General Motors, or GM, STEM Careers All Year virtual reading event. We're so excited to be working with General Motors and to bring you this series of books about STEM, about our differences that make us special, and all the wonderful things that go into science, technology, engineering, and math, and how those can be different for everybody. And we can all still find maybe an identity in them. We are so thankful for our partners, GM, for helping to bring this to you. And each month there will be a different theme, a different focus, and a different employee from General Motors that will come on and share a little bit about their STEM identity. I'm so excited to have you here. And I'm so excited to introduce my colleague at GM, Kelsey Gaines. And I'm going to let her take over, tell you a little bit more about this partnership, what it means to GM, and then introduce our speaker and reader for today, Octavio. So Kelsey, off to you.
Hi, Jenna. Thanks. My name is Kelsey Gaines, and my pronouns are she and her, and I am coming to you live from Detroit, Michigan, which is General Motors' headquarters city. And if you don't know General Motors, we are on a mission to be the most inclusive company in the world. And we know that we have a responsibility to make STEM education more accessible and equitable. Equipping diverse communities with the future industry relevant skills, so all of the wonderful skills that'll help you find your success in STEM. We know that this is super important to both educators and students alike. And we want to make sure that every student has an opportunity to develop a STEM identity and the confidence that you need to become the next innovator or leader in STEM. We're always looking for new ways and exciting ways to pique your interest as students in STEM education, focusing on a few really exciting topics like computational thinking and education tools and artificial intelligence. We want to make sure that students from all communities, just like you, have the chance to learn more about these exciting topics like math and science. And someday, hopefully, consider being the next car designer, veterinarian, climate scientist, or even a computer scientist like our guest today. As industry experts, corporations like GM have really exciting knowledge that can help all of you as future students and teachers alike understand what's needed to be the next STEM innovator or leader. And this is especially prevalent as we continue to see the need for more and more knowledge about STEM topics in any job that you might choose to do someday. We partner with nonprofits like First Book to help bring these exciting opportunities to life with different educators and students across the country. And we recognize that we have this exciting opportunity to kick off today a new series with First Book called STEM Careers All Year. And every month you'll have the opportunity to join us to learn more about exciting STEM careers that we need your young, innovative minds to fill someday. Over the next year, you'll get to hear from many different STEM employees at General Motors, like statisticians, 3D designers, and even an environmental engineer from across the world. As we kick off our session today, feel free to ask questions in the chat. We'll save some time at the end of today's session to answer them live. And without further ado, I'd like to take a moment to introduce today's exciting guest, Octavio Delgado. Octavio is a computer scientist at General Motors, and he loves math and coding. And with that, I'll turn things over to you, Octavio.
Hey, Kelsey. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited about this. And my name, as you said, is Octavio Delgado. My pronouns are he and his. This on the right is my family. We have Fernando on the left and Pablo on the right. and Elsa, my wife, on the further right. Um, this is a picture from us during our Easter celebration earlier this year. And before introducing myself more formally around what I do at GM, I want to share with you that I love photography, computers, and you will hear more about it in a second. Reading books, which is something that we are doing today, and traveling around the world because, as you said, and as part of the mission that we have at GM, we wanna be very inclusive, the most inclusive company in the world. And I think that by learning about new places, you also learn the power of the different cultures and the different places while traveling. So again, very excited to be here. And before I continue, I want to ask you if you can actually prepare maybe with like around your desk or something. I'm sure that you're going to have some things. We're going to do a quick sorting exercise. In my case, I have here 5 objects. I think that I would suggest you to have also 5 objects around you. In my case, I have like these 3 triangles, different colors each, and I have also a rectangle uh, and square here. So we're gonna do a quick sorting exercise. So we'll give you a few moments maybe to go grab some of those things, and I will go through another few slides before, so you have a little bit of time to do so. All right. So let me jump into the next slide. And let me tell you, what do I do at work? As Kelsey said, I'm a computer scientist, but my career at GM that started about 18 years ago has taken me through many places, and my current role involves creating apps. And I'm sure that most of you are familiar with the apps on your phones, right? Or maybe your parents' phones, and that's essentially what my team does here at GM. So we create applications through coding that allow us to make sure that our customers um, have the right car prices. We also make sure that we invoice our cars to our dealers, which are essentially the places that you go to buy a car here in the US and also in other places in the world. And also, we make sure that we have incentives, which are essentially similar to what I used to do with my mom and dad with coupons, right? To make sure that our products are not only great, but also more appealing to those that are buying them. So that's essentially, in very simple terms, what I do at work, and it's very exciting to do so at this moment, where like a lot of things are happening in the world, and more people wanna have a better experience and an easy experience buying a vehicle. So I'm gonna go to the next slide, and I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about um, the way my journey started. And I start with this because when I was very young, maybe even younger than my kids, I really liked to imagine things, and one thing that it was really appealing to me was magic. So who doesn't like magic? So here I'm asking who likes magic, but I would actually ask when we are growing up, who doesn't like magic, right? I would actually imagine at that time all the things that I could potentially do and with magic. And and when I was going through that period in my life, I was also going through some struggles. And one of my struggles was actually keeping up with taking good notes at school. My handwriting was horrible. So I could barely even understand what I was writing, and I was actually pretty good at my subjects. But really, like when anyone would try to actually read what I was writing, it was difficult, and they would tell me, "Oh, that's not nice." And also, I had another issue. Everybody and a lot of people, including my dad, who's an architect, could draw like beautiful things, and I was really bad at it. So combining this with magic, I would say, like, how would it be possible for me to actually make something better? And then when I was through that, uh, going through that struggle, I discovered computers, and they were actually a little different to the ones that I'm showing here in the screen. But I really kind of like was able to move from like taking notes in a very bad way to really writing beautiful things through the computer that I had at that time. And so very early in my life, I started to kind of like be engaged with computers, and I saw that they could really help me to do other things and be creative in different ways. And even if I was not really capable of maybe drawing beautifully, there were things that would help me to actually become better. And then I also discovered that, I mean, when I was, if I became better at math, I could actually achieve other things. So I discovered that math, and specifically science, and then the application of science, which is technology, allowed me not to need to be a magician. I mean, I could predict things by actually counting, by actually doing math on itself. So that's when I came to the realization that I wanted to do something like that for, I mean, in my life, and I happened to cross paths with GM at one point, and I mean, in 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 what has been an amazing career, I have been here already for 18 years. So the computers when I started were not probably the way that you imagine them today. So they were more like what you're seeing here in the screen. And by the way, it's funny because I started like playing a game that was called Test Drive, and it was about a car. And now I happen to be in a company that makes the best cars in the industry, right? So and this was the way that we actually store things, like those discs on the side. Maybe you are not familiar with them, but that's the way that it worked in my case. So, long story short, um, when I was 4 years old, I thought that magic was the best, and I still think it is, but it's an illusion. It's not real, and science is, math is, technology is, and it actually, like, as time goes by, we actually discover more and more ways that science helps us. Eventually, not gonna need to drive a car. The car is gonna take us to places without us actually having to drive it. So so science and math and technology and engineering that allow us to actually produce these beautiful cars that we have allow us to do great things. But simple things like the weather, that is not at all simple for those that actually study it, allow us to know and predict how the day is going to be. I can also predict when I'm gonna run out of my like supplies at home. And last year, to be perfectly honest, to actually even predict when I was gonna run out of toilet paper, which was very scarce at that time. Um, how long am I gonna take to get to from here at my office to my house, or for my children to go to the baseball practice? And in the case of more things related to my job, like how many cars are we gonna sell? How many computers do we need to support what we are doing for the prices of the cars? Things like that. So in summary, and I'm closing this section with the picture of my family last year during the pandemic, telling you that math is great, and the more you understand it, the more you connect everything that you do to math, the better you will get to be at it, and at the end of the day, the world will be better because of that. And hopefully one day you will join us at GM to do the amazing things that we're doing, not only for our communities but for the world and for the way that we live in. So with this, I'm actually gonna pivot into the sorting exercise. So again, a reminder. So we are gonna take 5 different um, objects. In this case, again, I have 2 shapes with 4 sides. and I have 3 shapes with 3 sides, 3 triangles. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna actually sort them in a way that, let's say that I had 2 buckets. I'm not gonna show the buckets here, but because I think it's easier to do it like this. But one way to sort this would be by the number of sides of these items, right? So I have 2 of them that are four side shapes. Let me actually do this a little better, like maybe like this. I think it's better here. And then I have 3 that are triangles. I'm gonna put them here. That's one way to do it. Now, another way to do it could be by size. I'm gonna take the ones that are bigger, these 2, with the ones that are smaller, these 3. Oops. Right? They are similar. Now, if I had others, and I'm gonna actually do something different here. So if I can actually also classify them by the shape. So I have others here. Again, these are more than 5, but I can take all the ones that are like the long triangles here. Or I can classify them by color. So I have all the red ones together. Or I can take now all the squares together, regardless of the color. So in summary, we are able to define different ways to group um, our shapes or the things that we have by their color, by their size, by their shape, by their by I mean maybe by the type of object that it is. Maybe I can classify computers and books and um, office items, things like that. So I think that that's mainly it. Like, keep in mind this, because actually the book that we're gonna work, and I'm actually gonna pivot now into the book itself, talks about a little bit of that.
Yes, we do. So our first question is, Octavio, why did you get into cars?
That's actually very interesting. So as I was telling you, I really love computers, and I wanted to kind of like make my career on computers. Um, so my dream was to actually work on like these big tech companies. But when I was about to finish my undergrad degree, I took an internship at GM, and guess what? Uh, it was very amazing. Like I had a really engaging manager at that time, so I really got to love the company and the mission that we had. But like really, what made me decide to actually make a career here was when they took me to a plant, to a manufacturing facility, and we were building the Silverados and the Escalades, which are like some of our big trucks in the same line. And I saw this magnificency of the place, and how like and how like all this science and technology was like put in service of this big and massive plant. So I fell in love with it. So I decided that I was going to trade off my dream of technology to actually be with a car company. But you know what? Now my dream is even better, because now cars are like computers on the road. So it's amazing. So now, like, my two favorite subjects, which are cars now and computers, are kind of like in the same industry, in the same place. So I could not ask for a place for me to work on. Hopefully that answers the question.
It certainly did. Thank you for that. I think you actually answered a few questions in one.
Oh,
The
okay.
next the next question is, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Mexico City. So that's an interesting story. I grew up in Mexico City, and so then I started working for GM in Mexico City, and after 9 years being there, I was offered the opportunity to come here and do some of what I was doing in Mexico, but here. And then rapidly I moved into more like global roles, and I've been here in the U.S. for the last almost 10 years, and now I'm a proud US citizen. So that's a very very nice part of me and my life, and my kids were born here, so we're very grateful of this beautiful country.
And on that note, since you did grow up in Mexico, some folks want to know if you're bilingual.
Well, I mean, my if you ask my son Fernando, he would say that I'm not. He would say that, and actually, I'm going to use my hands here. He would say that I speak English like this, and he speaks English like this. So, but I would think so. If I am talking to my boss, I would say that I am bilingual. I speak Spanish and English, and also a little bit of Portuguese.
That's awesome. Your next question is, what is your favorite car?
Well, you know what? I have a lot of favorite cars now. So right now, this very moment, I believe that it's the recently unveiled Corvette. So we have a new Corvette that was just announced, and keep me honest, Kelsey, but I think it was 2 days ago, literally. So that's my favorite car at this point. But I also have another two. So we have the new Hummer EV that is actually coming up very soon, and there's another Cadillac car that's called the Lyric, which is also coming up next year, and both of them are electric. So those are probably my three favorite cars.
Awesome. Thank you. I also love those cars. The new Corvette they showed this week is very cool.
It is,
So
yeah.
then the next question is, where did you go to college?
Well, um, that's interesting because I actually have 3 degrees. I have an undergrad degree that I actually went through in Mexico City. The name of the college is called the Monterey Tech. It's a very prestigious university in Mexico City. Then I did a dual degree. I did an MBA, which is a master's in business administration with that college and a college in Arizona called Thunderbird. It's a business school. And then my last degree, it's actually another master's degree that from a college called Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, which is a private college that actually specializes on computer science. So very proudly, like the last 2 degrees, my master degrees were funded by GM, because GM really helps you to kind of like learn more and more as you get developed within the company. So those are like my three alma maters.
Awesome. Thank you. What an exciting education journey you've had, and so cool you got to go to so many different schools.
Yep.
Let's see here. The next question is, how old were you when you first started working for GM?
I was 21.
And you were right out of college, you said, correct?
Yes.
That is exciting. What has been your favorite place to visit or travel to?
Wow, I have many places that I really, really love. See, I believe that maybe I will say Hong Kong. Um, and maybe because So in some cases, you have an expectation of a place, and maybe you saw pictures of it, and I had seen some, I have read some reviews around Hong Kong, but it really, really surprised me. Another place also in Asia is Bangkok, in Thailand, that I really like. But I mean, I think that I have learned to love every place that I have visited, and I have been privileged to visit many places in most of most of the different continents. But every place have different beauties. Maybe Barcelona is one of my favorite places as well.
That's awesome. What an exciting experience to get to travel the world like that. So the next question comes in from Pumpkin Delight School. And
Okay,
that question is, what kind of coding do you do for General Motors?
that's interesting. Yeah, that's a good one. So we code in many different languages depending on what we need. I think technology these days have actually allowed us to do different things, but very specifically we do Java for web development, and we use a framework that that's called PCF, but it's essentially Java. Java is a language that allows you to do many things. A lot of the things that we do, even for the vehicle, our infotainment solutions that are essentially like this uh, dashboard that you have where you click and you have apps on the newer cars. That's actually a lot of it is actually programmed with Java. But I'm less into the development of uh, the the software that goes into the car, but more into the business applications that we use um, to enable our business. In this case, for instance, all the financial applications that allow us to put prices on the cars. But Java, I would say that that's the primary one that we use here.
Awesome. Thank you. Next question is, what was your first science project that you can remember?
So I have a few, but I remember actually doing one, and this is actually back in Mexico City. I don't know if you're familiar with Mexico, but there's a lot of pollution in Mexico, and this was maybe when I was in middle school, and we created like this big um, like I would say model for showing how pollution was affecting the atmosphere and other areas. So like we built like this electric moving thing that would actually show the world and show how the atmosphere would work in the world, and how like the pollution would actually affect the climate and some changes. So I think that that's one that I remember a lot because I didn't know much about it. We just started by wanting to talk about pollution in Mexico City, which is a city with about 20 million people on it, and we learned about it. That's one of the ones that really impacted me a lot. Yeah, I would say that that would be probably the first one that I remember.
Awesome. Thank you. That is a very cool project. What would you say your favorite subject in elementary school was?
Well, math. I mean, definitely math. I was actually thinking about it this morning, and yeah, math was always my favorite. So I was always kind of like putting numbers into things. Like for instance, I would see a building and I would actually count the number of windows that were on it, and then I mean later I was actually trying to multiply like the number of levels by the number of windows on each level, and that was it. Trying to predict like numbers based on patterns, trying to actually count by twos and fives and tens and things like that. So that was always my favorite thing.
Awesome. What would you say is your favorite part of your job currently?
Well, you know what? Right now, we are changing the way that we sell vehicles. So, and I don't know how familiar are you with this, but if you think about any generation, like when you think about our grandparents, it doesn't matter if you are 5 years old or maybe you are 70 years old. The way that we used to buy cars was one way, and we are gonna be like transforming that into something totally different in the next 5 to 10 years. And the vehicles themselves are very different because we are actually going all electric. So that's my favorite part of the job. I mean, I came into an industry that was very predictable for a long time, was very similar for many generations, and now it's changing drastically and amazingly. It's just like the things that we are gonna see in the very short term are just great. So we are literally changing the world as we know it right now with the things that we are doing and with things that have happened like the pandemic and like the age of Amazon, where we buy things in totally different ways. Like what we are gonna be doing now with the car is just phenomenal. That's the most amazing part of what we are doing at GM and in the industry in general.
That is a fabulous answer, and I couldn't agree with you more. We are doing some pretty cool stuff. Next question comes to us from Jefferson Elementary, Messina. And they
Okay.
would like to know what you would consider to be the coolest invention or innovation of all time.
Well, I will go with the car. So see, and I think that in general, like every mean that as a humankind we have invented to transport ourselves faster is just great, right? Because the way that we actually bring people together and the experiences that we allow to happen by transporting ourselves to other places, um, it's just amazing. And I think that I would actually in this bucket to actually go with like the terminology that we were using on the book. I mean, I would put all the means of transportation, but I think that like the ability to actually bring people together, bring people closer, allow us to actually be better as a society and as a humanity. So I think that what we are doing and now doing it in a way that is actually less intrusive to our world because with zero emissions that like all the electric vehicles will bring, I think that that's that's probably like my favorite. So I need to go with the car, but I'm biased, so I think that that's the coolest invention of all times, and the internet as well, by the way.
That is a great invention, I would say. So we've got time for probably two more questions here. So one
Okay.
of the last questions we'll take is, what advice do you have for all students?
To read a lot, whatever you want to read, it's actually cool. And I honestly believe that also like converting everything into kind of like numbers is a very good exercise to actually be very capable and I would say demystify math. I think that math in general is seen sometimes as something that not everybody can do, and I totally disagree with that. I think that math is it's something that it's around us and we can actually convert everything into numbers and things, and then it's just a progression into science and technology and engineering. So I think that that would be my advice. So read a lot, whatever you want to read at the beginning. It doesn't matter the types of books that you read. Obviously, I mean your parents need to be well aware of what you're reading. But I think that it doesn't matter if it's fiction, if it's whatever book you like. I think it's important. So to get to this habit of reading, and if you can read more about science and math, even better, because there's a tremendous opportunity, specifically in this country, but in the world in general, to do more, to create things, to learn about things, to to change the way that we do and see things. And by reading and by trying to bring our ideas to life, um, is what we're gonna move us forward. So read, 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 please.
Awesome. And then I think this might be our last question, and they actually
Okay.
submitted it to us in Spanish. So I
Oh
was
wow.
wondering if you could answer in Spanish and then also answer in English. And they
Of
asked you,
course.
what is your favorite food?
All right. What is my favorite food? Um, I have many favorite dishes and food, but so I'm gonna go all Mexican here. Uh, and there's actually a food in Mexico that's called pozole or pozole, like we call it in Spanish, which is essentially like a soup that could go with pork or chicken inside and a little bit of corn. And it's actually very typical for the time when at least in my family, like for like the Independence Day time, which is around the September time frame. So that would be probably one of my favorites. But I also, and kind of like reinforcing stereotypes here. I mean, I love tacos and I love Italian food. Actually, um, there's actually like I like to eat meat, and there's actually an Italian dish very famous in Florence that's called the bistecca at uh, at alla Fiorentina, which I love. I can actually switch to Spanish now, and definitivamente mi comida favorita tiene que ver con la comida mexicana. Hay un platillo, se llama pozole, que es como una sopa con pollo y maíz. Y es un poco picante. By the way, I forgot to say that it's a little spicy. That pozole thing is a little spicy. That's what I'm saying in Spanish. Y me gusta mucho, me gusta mucho eso. También me gusta mucho la comida italiana. Me gusta comer carne. Y hay un platillo en particular que se llama bistecca a la fiorentina, que es como, un corte especial de carne que, bueno, me gusta mucho en la comida italiana. But going back to English, but I'm very open to different kinds of food. The Lebanese food. I love Lebanese food. I love Chinese, and I'm always open to actually taste new flavors. And obviously, American food in general. I think I also love. So my kids love mac and cheese, so I also love mac and cheese. So I think that's mainly it, Kelsey. Thank you for the opportunity of exercising Spanish a little bit here.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Octavio, for participating in today's first ever STEM Careers All Year book reading series. We're so happy that everyone was able to join us today. We're very happy too to see some of the folks that have dropped some messages in the chat sharing about your classroom's bilingual journey and your desire to keep learning and keep focusing on STEM. So that from me, I just wanted to say thank you everyone so much for joining today. And I will pass things over to Jenna and Octavio to give their final remarks.
So thank you, Kelsey, and thank you, Octavio, for joining today. We really appreciate you sharing about your STEM career, Octavio, at GM. how you got there, how you fought your way through, and finding magic in math, in science, and in reading. So we really appreciate you taking time today and sharing about your life. And want to thank everyone who joined today for taking time to get to know Octavio and hear the beautiful book he read. We hope you will join us every month moving forward. Next month in November on the 19th from 1 to 2 p.m., we will have another GM STEM Careers All Year reading event. So stay tuned for the invitation to come through next week with the registration. Our readers and presenters will be reading Becoming Vanessa. And we hope that the educators on this call will check out the First Book Marketplace's Diversity in STEM page, where a lot of the books that we'll be sharing through these virtual events are available. And thanks to GM for sponsoring that. So again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Octavio. Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, audience. We really enjoyed having you all here today and look forward to seeing you in November. All right.